Hey guys, this is not a voice that you're used to kicking off the pod. You're still on the right pod, don't worry. But I am Dujju and I've known Zoya for 9 years now. We share the same alma mater. We've had the misfortune of sharing two workplaces, not necessarily simultaneously, but yes, two workplaces, which is rare unless you're friends who start shell companies together. Let me tell you a few things about Zoya. Zoya is one of the most intelligent, sensible, and articulate people I know. Zoya is also one of the most fun, adventurous, fearlessly insane people I know. When I think of the word badass, the face that pops up in my head is Zoya. And to sum everything up, if I were to wake up tomorrow morning and I got to hear that, hey, Zoya has just scaled Mount Everest, I would just shrug and think, yeah, हाँ, एक हफ्ता off होगा तो कर लिया होगा. So Zoya is an epitome of if you put your mind to something, you can do it. With that being said, and with the hope that none of this is edited out, welcome to your own pod, Zoya. What's up?
Hi, Dujju. Thank you for that introduction and for introducing me on my own podcast. I love that. Love that introduction. I don't know if I actually live up to it or you're
Nice,
just
fuck off.
fanboying, but thank you.
Maybe. I think it's important for people to have a background or some kind of brief context of what you do. Maybe quickly just tell us about what you do, what you've been like for the last 10, 12 years. What are you up to?
I think I'm a fairly average person, your introduction aside. So I'm 36. I live in Bangalore. I have been working for the last 12 years across industries, FMCG, media, e-commerce, and uh, now a cab company that fashions itself as a tech company. I've done a few career pivots in this time. But what I really like to identify as is someone who found love for the sea in the last year. And so she tries to surf, she tries to dive. I did a few courses last year and I'm an advanced diver now. And I like talking, so hence I have a podcast. But I'm also very lazy, so I don't put a lot of effort into it. Um, and in general, I enjoy traveling like any other person. I'm not married and I live the single life. I'm regular at the gym or was. I do CrossFit. I love yoga. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Nice. So, in other words, an everyday person, nothing too fancy, nothing too flashy, but just a regular everyday person.
Yeah.
So, everyday person, I got a text from you on the 2nd of last month, which happens to be your birthday. And it took me a few minutes to process what I was reading. And the nutshell of the test was, hey, uh, I've been diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So from a layman's perspective, from a third person's perspective, it takes you by shock when you're just reading it about someone you know personally. Uh, let's start at the very beginning. You told me on and multiple people on the 2nd of the last month. Great, great birthday, by the way.
Yeah.
How when did you get to know?
It was just a day before.
Hmm.
So actually, I'll tell you how the diagnosis came about.
Hmm.
I was a week before it was confirmed that it's cancer. It was a long weekend and I was going to Goa. And I was also preparing for a trip to the Maldives the next day. The next week, my birthday
Hmm.
was supposed to be spent diving with sharks in Fuamula in Maldives.
Hmm.
And all of that chaos of, packing bags and, getting ready to party was happening. And I just like remembered that I'm very regular with self-examinations, breast self-examinations. I found a lump
Hmm.
and it was small, but I kind of instantly knew it's wrong. And I knew that because I've been very regular with self examinations. I've visited gynecologists a bunch of times to understand how to do it. And so I kind of had alarm bells ringing in my head, but I had a flight to Goa the next day. And I was like, "ठीक है yaar, I'll just come back and I
Hmm.
don't think it'll be anything." But I was worried throughout the trip. And I came back and immediately I went to a gynec who also said that it feels like nothing. But why don't you just get a mammogram done? And so I did. And then that said something is suspicious. And then that led to a few more quick scans. And that led to a biopsy. And then I was sitting, I got called to the doctor's office. They didn't publish the report online. And I was like, why would you not put it online? And they were like, no, you have to just come in. And I dropped everything at work and I just rushed. And all of this has happened over the span of like 4 or 5 days. And I just rushed to the hospital and they just handed me a piece of paper which said that I have cancer. And they said we have to run a few more tests so that we know, what stage and what type of breast cancer it is, because there are multiple types of breast cancer, as I found out later. And I was just sitting there and the world just felt like everything for me has stopped, but everything else outside is kind of going on fine. And I've suddenly been thrown into, a place where I'm not able to connect with people in just an instant. Like I'm an outsider in like a second. And yeah, that's when I found out. And I took a day to sort of process it. Uh, I won't say I succeeded in processing it in a day, but before I was comfortable reaching out to people. And there was this one last test pending, which would tell me what type. And that's the report that came out on my birthday. As I was sitting outside another oncologist's office thinking that, maybe the report says it's one of those types of breast cancers which can be managed with pills, and I don't have to do chemo and all the other scary things you hear about. And yeah, that's when I found out. And that's when I kind of texted a few people who are close to me because I felt that they would like to know. And that's when the journey or this roller coaster started.
You've been fairly regular with your checkups and scans. So knowing you, you're quite a fit person, and you have a pretty active lifestyle. As you said, you surf a lot, you do CrossFit a lot, and see, if in our heads we perceive our lifestyles to be active, we automatically assume कि हाँ we are fit, हमें कुछ नहीं होने वाला किसी भी चीज़ से, we don't have excess fat, we don't lie around the couch all the time, so uh, we are in the clear as far as any major health scares are concerned. uh, Despite that, you were frequently visiting your doctors for scans and checkups. Is this something that you've always done, or has the frequency increased post crossing a certain age?
Yeah, it did increase once I think I crossed 30. I just felt it'll be smarter to not miss an annual health checkup and to just, be a little bit more proactive about your health.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I've been doing it for a while, but probably not the whole of my life.
Hmm. So, just to put all the cards on the table, tell us about what kind of cancer have you been diagnosed with? What stage is it, and what is your present recovery state as of today? Hmm.
So I've been diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer. It's early stage. There are typically stage 0 to stage 4 is how cancer is described within different stages. So it's stage 1. It's not spread anywhere outside of the breast. And so in that sense, it's what the doctors call localized cancer. It's in one region.
Hmm.
The cancer treatment plans around the world, as I learned, are very, very standard. They, of course, keep getting, revised as new medical information comes out. But once the staging of cancer is done, it's a very, very standard drug regimen / treatment process that anyone around the world will go through. So in my case, it was a small surgery where they removed the cancerous tumor.
Hmm.
And they checked the surrounding area to see if there's any spread which did not get picked up by scans. That is then followed up with, in my case, 8 rounds of chemotherapy that will last at least 4 to 6 months, followed by a month of radiation therapy. And once all of that is done, it'll be 5 years of regular checkups before I'm declared cancer free. So in this much time, while there is no, because the tumor is out, there is no scan or machine in the world that will detect cancer cells in my body right now.
Okay.
Uh, there is the assumption that any cell that's smaller than 5 mm can get missed by scans. And so as a protective measure and to prevent cancer from coming back, doctors prescribe chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and all these other procedures so that that very last cell can hopefully be killed. Because the other thing about cancer is that if it comes back, so let's say you've been diagnosed once and you go through all of this and, you're quote unquote fine. If it comes back, then it's immediately a stage 4. Because any kind of relapse typically occurs elsewhere in the body. It may come back in the same place, but it's considered a stage 4, which has much lower chances of survival, and you have a poorer prognosis. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And right now I've done 2 cycles of chemotherapy, so I have 6 left. And yeah, we're somewhere at the start of the long treatment process.
Okay, medical facts kept aside. Talk me through the first day or your birthday, especially when you found out. You touched on it briefly that it took a while to process, and talk about whatever you're comfortable talking about. Uh, what was the first day like? The first hour like? The first few hours like?
So the day that I was handed the paper, a friend was over, he was with me, and I was in shock, but I was operating on autopilot. And so, I was scared, but I was also like, I don't think I was thinking right about it. Um, all I remember feeling is scared, uh, but very much in control, for the simple reason that I didn't know what I was up against. So my natural control freak nature was out, and I was like, yeah, what do I have to do next? Right. And my friend, he says that you have to call your parents. I was in Bangalore. My parents are based out of Delhi. He's like, you have to call your parents. And I said, are you sure? Because, I just figured that
मैं हैंडल कर लूंगी, मैं
कर
जोया हूँ.
लूंगी. I don't even know it till that time. I didn't know कितना cycle treatment क्या कुछ नहीं पता था.
तो उनको क्यों परेशान करना है फालतू
क्या
में?
परेशान करना है, हाँ कर लेंगे अभी जो भी है देख लेंगे. And then he was like, no, please call your parents. And I think in 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 all this journey so far, that was the hardest thing that I've had to do, to just make that call at, I don't know what time it was, but probably it was 7:38 in the night, to make that call and tell them that their daughter has been diagnosed with cancer. I think that so far surgery ho gaya hai, chemo ho gaya hai, kuch, but that still feels like the hardest thing that I did. And I was shaking while I was talking, but my voice, at least what went to them, was totally calm. That's how the first 2-3 hours went by.
Reaction
My parents' reaction
after
immediately
the
was,
initial shock?
they said, just take the next flight and come home. And I remember telling them that I have a scan scheduled in the morning. तो वो करा के आती हूँ ना. Calm down. Like, what are you guys getting freaked out about? It's just cancer. I had no idea what was making me say shit like that. I had no idea about cancer. But I was just like, it's okay, let me do the scan. I have friends with me. And Nupur had, like, one of my closest friends here in Bangalore. She had come immediately, and she was staying the night. It's like, I have friends, don't worry about it. But like, just book the first flight. Okay, fine, do your scan, but come over. So of course they panicked, and but they were also, they maintained their calm, and they took that one paper that I sent them on WhatsApp. They took a printout, and the next day they were visiting hospitals while I was, getting on the flight. And then I got home, and that is probably when my so-called reservoir of strength just broke and vanished. And suddenly I was like, yeah, suddenly I was like, I'm home, and they'll take care of it.
You have water with you?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was my birthday. And then my folks, of course, they had, figured out a bunch of oncologists. So we went to one, and oh God, it's a little unexpected. Yeah, so we went to an oncologist, and I was sitting outside the waiting room, and that's when that report of, what type of cancer, breast cancer I have, came out, which it's a triple negative breast cancer. And my shoulders slumped because whatever rudimentary Google searches that I'd done so far, it's considered one of the more aggressive, less treatable forms of cancer. And so there are three other types that I could have had. And I was like, shit, I wish it was one of those. And my shoulders just slumped. And, we entered the doctor's office, and as doctors take out that form where they start writing name, age, and they were like, name, and what's your age? And I said, I turned 36 today. And that's when I broke down in the doctor's office. And he was really kind. He was a really kind doctor. He just immediately hugged me, and he said to me at that time, which it didn't make sense then, but he said, I know these sound like hollow words right now, but you will get out of this. It's just a speed breaker. And you will be sitting in my office when you're 80, and we'll be having a laugh about this. And it didn't hit home. I was just, there was no way I was at all in the mind space to absorb that, but he said it, and that stayed with me. And today I kind of feel, I don't know about 80, but I do no longer think that I'm immediately dying. So that's a good thing.
Second, you sent out these messages to people. You started telling people close to you. How did they respond? I'm sure a number of people would know how to react, so they simply might not have responded. They wouldn't know what to say to you, what not to say to you, what might be comforting, what might not be, what might sound hollow words, what might sound cheesy, what might give you real support, real strength. So people might not have responded. I'm assuming for the next 2 to 3 days you would have heard from people who give a shit about you, who are concerned with your health. What was their reaction like? What was their response like?
It was a mix of responses, because my initial message only went out to not a very small, but not a very large circle of people as well. So it was a good mix of responses. I don't think there was anything that anyone could have said at that time that would have comforted me. So I don't know what the right response would have been. I did mention in my message that, I'm still in the process of figuring everything out, so I'll need some space. But even so, there were some people who are just like, my anxious friends. They were all like, we have to call you right now. Where are you? We have to come see you, and all of that. And I was just like, guys, I cannot do this right now. And so there was this one set of people who their anxiety would only come to rest till till I actually speak to them and they hear my voice and they're like, okay, fine, you sound okay, etc. Right? There's that anxious set. And then there's that set who were, maybe unfortunately, they would have had uh, a brush with cancer in their families. And so in some ways, they knew how to answer in a more reserved manner. Just to say that they're there and, they can help with A, B, or C, like finding out the right oncologist, or um, putting me in touch with someone who can help and stuff like that. So more measured responses with no, over texting, etc. So yeah, it was a mix. But like I said, there was not anything that I can even now think of which someone could have said to me in the first 10 days, which would have given me an ounce of comfort. So by that measure, all I expected probably was for folks to be there and help me out with silly questions like, is my insurance good enough? Or do you know an oncologist? Or do you know another person who's been through this and can I speak to them? Because you have all these questions and you don't
Yeah.
know which questions are right or wrong or important or not important. You're just like blasting questions, broadcasting them at whoever, forms a part of your circle. And they're also probably scrambling around trying to figure out answers for you. So I think the first 10 days in that sense was a lot of chaos, a lot of tears, a lot of going from one hospital to another, hoping that, maybe one oncologist tells us ki kuch bhi nahi hai. It was a lot of
False
that as well.
alarm. Yeah.
Yeah, false alarm. So it was chaos, just absolute chaos.
Then you put up a post on Instagram for the larger world to know, and then I believe the avalanche must have begun.
Yeah, that was a
Hmm.
that was a fun day because I was just going into surgery
Hmm.
and I put up that post at night, the night
Yeah.
before the surgery. And I mean, in general, going by what my experience on my own Instagram page has been, like if I put something that maybe whatever out of line or like, just out of the ordinary, I'll have, let's say, 10, 20 people reach out. So I thought utna hi hoga, but it's cancer. And so there was so many messages over the night that I was like, shit, galat time pe post kar diya because I need to like rest. I need to be ready for my surgery the next day. And like the next 24 to 40 hours was just people that I've not met or spoken to in years, batchmates from 10, 12 years ago, or someone
Yeah.
that I met once in a meeting room in an old company, just reaching out with, warm wishes. And it was overwhelming, but in a good way.
Hmm.
And I say good way because by then I would not say again that 15 days is any kind of time to process a cancer diagnosis, but there was a little bit more acceptance. But more than that, I was on morphine. So
I
in,
remember we spoke that day, huh? I remember.
yeah, in
Nice.
general, a lot of shit happened that day. Um, send out texts that I should not have. But yeah, so it was
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
because I was suddenly like, morphine gives you such a high and in a
Yeah.
good way because suddenly I was like, a bit cancery hai yaar, guys. Don't worry about it. I got this. I'm okay. Like I was so happy that day, completely artificially, but it was good. The funniest response, by the way, to that, I wrote a long post.
Yeah.
Right, which explained pretty much everything that anyone would want to know at that point.
Hmm.
And the two funny responses to that was one person texted me saying, "What happened?" That's it. And I'm just like, I
Nice.
literally wrote like
Nice.
300 words. Um, okay. And then another person probably missed a lot of it.
Wait, how did you respond to that? हाँ, ऐसे ही sexy लग रहा है, डाल दिया कुछ भी लिख के मतलब।
I did not even respond to it for a while until I was like, कि, पढ़ ले
उसको
भाई.
वापस अपने पोस्ट का लिंक भेज दो ना कि हाँ भाई लिखा हुआ है वहां पे सब।
Yeah. And the second funniest response was someone sent me happy birthday. Because I wrote in the post that, I got diagnosed on my birthday. And so
Oh,
they were like, oh, birthday, happy birthday. And then that person, I think it was by my second or third post that must have come up in their feed. Suddenly they realized, oh shit.
सिर्फ बर्थडे नहीं था।
So they came back 2, 3 weeks later saying, oh, I'm so sorry.
In the hordes of people who reached out to you post that Instagram after that Instagram post, so a number of people reached out to me because people know we are in touch, we keep in touch. uh, that's a very pedantic way of saying we are friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people know that we are friends. So batchmates of yours, people from Pidilite reached out to me कि again क्या हुआ, क्या ये सच है? Is this real? मतलब हाँ, okay.
I
So
remember at work, someone said, and I've been quite open about talking about my cancer diagnosis, more so than a
mm,
lot of other cancer fighters. Each
mm.
have their own personal reasons. But I remember someone at work thinking me, are you sure this is not a Poonam Pandey stunt? And I was like,
Wow.
no, I don't have that kind of following to have that sort of a influence, first of all. And second, that was a shitty stunt.
Yeah.
No, it's not a stunt.
Oh, nice. Uh, so people usually shy away from talking freely about about serious diseases like AIDS has had such a stigma. Cancer, not to that extent, but it is still a taboo term in everyday parlance. Have you experienced over the last month or so people uh, treating it like Voldemort कि हाँ ठीक है थोड़ा सी तुम बीमार हो बट ठीक हो जाएगा मतलब shying away or skirting around the topic?
Yeah, there are a lot of people who can't even say the word cancer. I remember in the early days when I was home, I had some relatives visit, and this auntie, she was like, हाँ वो वाली मेरी एक कजन की भी बेटी को वो ही वाली प्रॉब्लम थी. So my mom had just stepped out, so she didn't have context. She came back in and she heard this and she's like, कौन सी प्रॉब्लम? It's like यही वाली प्रॉब्लम. And my mom, she was still trying to please, like, kaun si wali problem? It's like, and the auntie she was so uncomfortable saying anything close to the word cancer. And that made me extremely uncomfortable. I just walked out of the room because I felt like I don't want I don't want to be treated that I have something that just can't even be spoken, because even if you speak that word out, something will befall you, something
Calamity.
evil will happen to you.
Yeah.
And I realized how, people are afraid of saying the word cancer, or they're afraid to talk to you after you've been diagnosed, um, or just reach out, or offer help. A lot of it is, of course, people don't know what to say. That's a different thing. But, to be so afraid of wanting to even engage with a cancer patient, as if baat karne se tumko ho jayega. So I felt that in bits and pieces. But that made me even more resolute to sort of talk about it, because one thing that happened in that avalanche of Instagram messages that I got from a lot of acquaintances and friends was that I realized there are so many people uh, who have seen cancer in their families. And of course, I would not know about it because, thank God, it's not them, or, they don't post about it, they don't share it
Mm.
enough. But just so many, it almost feels like it is a very regular occurrence. Why don't we talk about it? Because sure, it's scary, and in a lot of cases it is very much the end, but it is also just something that happens medically. If you are slightly curious about things in general, it's a very fascinating thing almost. How do these cells in your body kind of just defy everything for reasons that mankind has just not been able to unearth, despite so many billions of dollars being pumped into research around cancer. मतलब किसी को पता ही नहीं है क्यों होता है. You just grasp at straws. On that note, I
ये भी
took
काफी
a
लोगों ने पूछा होगा ना कि कैसे हुआ,
कैसे हुआ,
क्या क्या किया तुमने जो तुम्हें
ऐसा क्या
कैंसर
किया
हुआ।
तुमने. हाँ, इट्स लाइक अगर किसी को भी दुनिया में पता होता ना दैट drinking gin and tonic causes cancer, or I don't know, using deodorants causes cancer, the whole world would immediately stop, don't you think?
हम्म.
So no one knows. And there are these risk score types that exist for determining your breast cancer risk score. And I just thought I'll, for fun now, fill out one of those very long medical forms and see what's my risk to get breast cancer. I answered every question truthfully, except one, which is like, have you ever had breast cancer before? To that, I said no, because I wanted to see what was the answer that I would have got if I was doing this 3 months ago. Is 0.3%. The chance of me getting cancer basis my lifestyle, basis things I've consumed, basis the fact that I'm childless, when I had my periods, etc., whatever goes into determining what causes breast cancer, it put my probability of getting it in my lifetime at 0.3%. So no one knows jack shit. Um, and yeah, so I figured that it is a fascinating thing. The treatment for it is also very, very standardized with whatever little people know about cancer. The researchers, scientists, medical practitioners around the world, they throw everything at it. And
It's a spray and pray approach because nobody really know what
yeah.
will cure this. So ये भी try कर लेते हैं, ये भी try कर लेते हैं. So it's a spray and pray approach.
Exactly. And there's nothing very complicated about it if you were to explain it to a layperson. Chemotherapy mein ye hota hai, this is what happens in radiation, etc., etc. Here's what a surgery looks like, right? So it's not really complicated. It's just that people don't talk about it because they're afraid of it. Maybe if they'll say they'll get it, or I don't know what the reasons are, they just want to keep it at an arm's length. But the other thing that I realized as I was reading a lot of material on cancer, books, research, whatever, I could lay my hands on, is that early detection saves lives. It sounds like a catch-all, convenient thing to say, but it makes a difference. The reason I can sit here and talk about it with a little bit more grace than maybe other people in this situation is because it's a stage 1 cancer. And so I have hopes for a longer life.
Hmm.
So if you just know a tiny bit about cancer and what are the very simple diagnostic tools that you can just casually include in your annual health checkup, like in case of breast cancer, it's a simple bloody ultrasound or a mammogram, costs nothing,
Hmm.
right? And what blood markers you should look for, people can find it early, and that makes a world of a difference in how your treatment would be, and what chance you have, and as a result of that, what hope your family has. So it's dumb that people don't talk about it. And again, it's easy for me to like throw this judgment out now, but I was in the same boat, right? 2 months back, मैं कौन सा बड़ी cancer पे books पढ़ रही थी बैठ के. I would also like avoid it like the plague. And like you said, being a healthy person with no cholesterol, no diabetes, no high blood pressure, or any other so-called markers
Hmm.
of ailing health, I had no reason to believe that I'd be visiting hospitals.
Hmm. How did the people at work take it when you broke it to them? I mean, were there any deadline pressures after that? मतलब कि
Oh,
वो
no.
कैंसर तो ठीक है बट ये सबमिशन बाकी है.
No, thankfully, my workplace is kind and very supportive.
Hmm.
And of course, I have to work. I mean, they did offer me an option to take time off, but for my own mental sanity, I wanted to work.
You must have a decent team, decent hearted team who you
That's for
work with.
sure. They're kind people. They as it so happened in the larger team, there's another breast cancer survivor, and we spoke, and she helped me a lot with a few things, and so it's been nice. I'm happy, but I'm also I just want to also maintain my work ethic the best I can as I
Hmm.
go through this.
Are you able to focus? I mean, so we'll get onto the after effects of the treatment that you're going through in a bit, but is it does it help to focus on anything that's not health related, or are you doing it out of uh, the pursuit के मेरा दिमाग डल नहीं होना चाहिए, I don't want to be out of the loop, or I don't want to be यो वो कॉम्पिटिटिव स्पिरिट अभी भी विद रिस्पेक्ट टू ऑफिस बाकी है कि हाँ ये तो सब तो कर रहे हैं मैं कुछ नहीं कर रही हूँ. व्हाई व्हाट इज द मोटिवेशन फॉर यू टू स्टिल वर्क while you're not at the peak of your health?
The simple answer is I do this because I want to not think about cancer all the time. And that's an
Hmm.
impossible task when you have it.
Hmm.
And like I was telling you earlier about, how I picked it up, I had no painful symptoms or nothing that disrupted my life flow in any way. So for
Hmm.
me, the treatment is turning out to be worse than the disease in that sense. So it's hard to not constantly think about cancer.
Hmm.
And one very interesting thing someone said to me during the diagnosis month was that cancer can be in your body, but don't let it get to your mind. Uh, and in a way, being able to work, to do things like read a book or watch some TV or spend some time with parents talking about other random things and meeting friends, it's very, very helpful for me. It takes my mind off cancer. It gives me hope that even though I have a disease that's so scary, I also have a shot at continuing to live a normal life in bits and pieces when I
Hmm.
can.
Hmm.
And that really, really helps. The other thing that you touched upon was, that sense of being able to compete. Thankfully, I don't have that, but I don't think cancer has much to do with it because I was on a career break last year and I
Hmm.
had enough epiphanies about what's important to me and what's not in life.
Hmm.
And to that end, needless competition at work, and I'm talking about jobs where I'm not saving lives. Uh, I'm just crunching Excel sheets. So to that end, no, if my health would have demanded or made me incompetent, incapacitated, or in some way that I could not work, I would not have. Not
Hmm.
to just, be like, oh, I'll be out of the game. It's fine, I'll be out of the game. I'll go surfing, I'll go diving. Screw you guys.
So you just spoke that you presently ongoing the chemo cycles. You just finished the second chemo cycle. Se pehle you had a surgery as well. Uh, how did you narrow down on where to get the treatment from? I mean, you must have visited hundreds of oncologists. You must have uh, heard from people with past experience in their families. You must have had numerous references. What is the process of jilting down to हाँ मुझे यहाँ से surgery कराना सही लग रहा है and this is the place I want to get chemo done from? Why are you still out doing it out of Bangalore and not Noida, which is home? uh, Talk me through that process of arriving at these small decisions which make the world of difference.
So the entire first month of diagnosis was all of this decision making,
Hmm.
which doctor, which hospital, and which city. Because
Hmm.
parents are in Delhi, I live alone in Bangalore, and you
Hmm.
can't do cancer treatment without a lot of support.
Hmm.
Um, so I remember in the first 2, 3 days, I had spoken to someone who had the unfortunate experience of cancer in their family, and I asked them, which oncologist do you recommend in Bangalore? And they gave me a few names, but they said that, pick the oncologist team that you feel most comfortable with. When you speak to them and you get a sense of comfort that you're in the right hands, that's what you should go for. And I was like, all right. And then we went about speaking to like at least 10, 12 different oncologists across Delhi, Bangalore, and even Bombay. And in the first couple of days, I was like, what? How do I? Everybody has a degree. सबका हॉस्पिटल में इक्विपमेंट तो है ही एंड नो
Hmm.
सर्जन विल कम टू यू एंड से दैट मुझे चाकू चलाना नहीं whatever scalpel चलाना नहीं आता how do you
Standard procedure
decide.
of treatment hai across the world, huh?
Yeah, so I was very like confused. And what do you compare? Years of experience? Do you talk to patients who they have treated on? It's
Are the
very
doctors
difficult.
cute? Yeah.
It's yeah, although I would never want to see an oncologist again in my life, but sure. So yeah, so I did think of all of that until I landed in Aster CMI in Bangalore, and I met the onco surgeon over there and his team, and I knew in an instant. I just knew that this is going to be my doctor, and I told him there and then that let's schedule the surgery. So in a way, it boils
Why?
down. If I don't know if I can put it very correctly, but I'll tell you what probably worked for me. One was that the doctor took me seriously in the sense that it's cancer, every doctor takes you seriously, but there were some doctors who would address my parents.
Okay.
Uh, Even though I was throughout all my doctor visits, I was very like comfortable asking questions and understanding my treatment. So most doctors kind of looked to my parents and tried to answer them, and I did not feel comfortable with that. Maybe because I'm a control freak, but I just felt like the doctor should be talking to me. I'm the patient, I'm not 12. Thank God. Um, so there was that. Um, I don't know what else factored in. Maybe just the
Just
way
just clicked.
it just clicked. And he was
Hmm.
very knowledgeable. The hospital was good. So all those basic hygiene factors of, this doctor has a lot of experience, comes highly
Hmm.
recommended. Hospital looks great, does not look like a graveyard here. Those things also played in.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm afraid I don't have a better answer, but that's one thing that I did notice would often tick me off.
Hmm.
Um, the second thing about Delhi versus Bangalore was I've been living here a while and I've been living away from home for an even longer time.
Hmm.
And so my routine, my base, my social circle, my work, everything is in Bangalore. And we were told that between chemo cycles there would be a few days every now and then where you feel okay enough to socialize, you can have friends over, you can work. So I wanted to keep my routine as intact as possible. Instead of being locked away for 7, 8
Yeah.
months,
Yeah.
which is also home. Parents are there, but in a way, if I could maintain a semblance of my regular life, I felt that mentally it would be a lot better for me. And my parents thankfully agreed, and they have moved here with me. They've wrapped up, temporarily packed up stuff in Delhi, and they're here.
How sweet. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I completely get where you're coming from. It is home, but it's not the home. It was home when you were 15. It's not been home for the last 15 years now. You
yeah.
you have that idea of what it used to be like, but you don't live like that anymore. So you much rather live like you've been living for the last 10 years, and kudos to your parents, honestly. Um
True.
uh, you've been through surgery. You're on presently going through cycles of chemo. However you feel comfortable, talk me through what going through chemo feels like, and what are the ensuing 8 to 10 days like. uh,
So chemo is a very dumb drug, just for context. It's targeted to kill fast growing cells. Cancer cells are fast growing, but there are a lot of other cells in your body that are fast growing. So your hair goes because that's fast growing, your mouth lining gets destroyed, your WBCs fall, your RBCs fall, platelets, everything starts getting
hmm,
killed by this drug. So it's kind of like they let loose, like you said, that's spray and
Train,
pray
train.
approach. Yeah, so they just kind of throw in the nuclear bomb. It takes out the enemy, but it kind of takes out everything else as well. So that's chemo. So now what happens on the first day of chemo is that you go to the hospital and you fill out a bunch of forms and you sit in a chemo ward where there are other chemo patients. And there are like the drug gets infused into your system over 6-7 hours. In my case, I got a chemo port installed, which is a very standard thing that is now given as an option to cancer patients, because previously what used to happen was that chemo was inserted like any other drug through your veins,
IV.
through IV, and now there's like a tiny little device in my chest, near my shoulders, where they kind of just poke it a little bit, and that's it. It's go. So it's like a very convenient-ish way. Although it's weird to have like a little device stuck in you all the time.
And
But
you're a cyborg now. Yeah.
I'm a cyborg now. So that's what happens. The first 6-7 hours of it are pretty boring. So you kind of take your laptop or a board game or something to read, and you keep yourself entertained. And my parents do a good job of entertaining me and themselves. So they're usually like, cracking jokes at other chemo patients. And I'm like, just thoda dheere bolo yaar. But like, why? Like the other, sorry, I'm just getting distracted, but my last chemo infusion, this other lady walks in and she was clearly wearing a wig. And, my mom had been discussing with me whether I want a wig or not. How do I want to do this hair loss thing? And I told her that I don't want one. And then she looks at that one and she says, ki, dekho uska kitna acha lag raha hai na, wig tu bhi wig le." I'm like, "Mom, just thoda dheere bolo." So, it's a lot of that. But yeah, that's where the fun and games kind of end for a little while. As soon as I get home, there's a wave of nausea. It's so it's a bunch of side effects, but largely I don't want to get into each and every one individually, because every cancer patient and every chemo drug also has a different set of effects. So and it's one thing that I avoided knowing before I got into my chemotherapy. So I would not want to put it out publicly, but just listen to your oncologist is what I'd say to cancer patients. But um, you're just very tired and you're very sick and you want to avoid infection at all costs because your defense systems are down. So for the next 5-6 days, it's a lot of sleeping in, resting, managing whatever side effects are bringing you, and avoiding any kind of infection. So COVID protocol kind of immediately kicks into place in the house. Then, we masked up, sanitizers, and no outside presence, etc. And that's when takes about 6-7 days for the drug to kind of leave your body. And that's when all those fast growing cells kind of start coming back, right? So your WBC start growing, your RBCs come back, etc. And then you start feeling a little bit pink in health, you get peachier. And that's when you can socialize a little bit. So you get a few days to recover. But as soon as you hit recovery, it's time for the second dose. So that's how it just sort of keeps repeating itself.
Is it physically painful as well? Apart from the mental trauma of literally seeing yourself shed health every single day, is it physically painful as well? The next 10 days after the cycle?
Again, it's a drug specific thing. So the drug I'm on right now is not, but the drug that I will be on next is supposed to be bone crushing. So yeah. But yeah, more than in all of that, it's the whole, you're like, I was a healthy person. I was doing everything right. And now, for no fault of mine, I have to put my body through constant erosion, which is you hope and pray that you don't end up with long-term side effects, but it's a very real possibility that your heart is weakened or your liver is weakened or your kidney function is weakened or you're not able to have babies after this and a bunch of other things, right? Because like I said, chemo is a nuclear weapon. It does not just target cancer cells, it targets everything else. So that's the shitty bit, I think. That you're just like, what the hell? I mean, isn't treatment supposed to be better than the disease?
Do stories of survivors help? I mean, there are plenty available, but do they really help? Because not everyone is as articulate. Not everyone is putting out information that that pacifies your anxiety. Some of it might trigger it further. Some of it might send you down a spiral. Uh, some of it may actually help if put out well enough. If spoken, if they're focusing on the positives of the recovery, etc. Some of it might help, but some of it might not. It might have exactly the opposite effect as desired. So have you been going through stories of survivors, those accounts, and has it been of any help at all?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, and exactly how you described it, right? Sometimes it's helpful and sometimes it's just not. It's the exact opposite of helpful. So how how survivor stories help is that or if you see someone who's gone through the same type of cancer as you or a similar type of cancer as you, and they are now living a good full life,
Hmm.
that's very encouraging. Um, and that's helpful. But then you also have to put the filter that you're only consuming that which you need in the moment.
Hmm.
And I went through a lot of fear and panic in the early days.
Hmm.
That if I went to a survivor story or a Reddit forum that had, cancer patients slash survivors, if I pick ones that were positive sounding, rational, did not do a lot of fear mongering, I would walk
Hmm.
out feeling really good.
Hmm.
But if I unfortunately landed on a post which was depressing, or it's wrong to use that word because it's their story and what
Yeah.
someone went through, but maybe I was not in the frame of mind to receive that, then I would panic so bad. Like I would start tasting blood in my mouth and I could not sleep the whole night. And it's
Hmm.
like, what is to say that this won't be me? you know so then I decided that for my own, and each person is different, each cancer patient is different. For my own sanity, I decided not to engage with survivors except two or three who I found, just maybe after my own personality, they're very similar to me, and they've been super helpful. And two of them I don't even know. I just One person I met off Instagram, and she's beautiful, so kind, lovely girl, and she's been my go-to person because she jokes about cancer with me, and I love that. And another person who's like an old college friend, I did not even know she was going through this. um Her husband reached out, and they were sensible enough to withhold information that they felt that I would not need to
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
but at the same time tell me stuff that they think would be helpful. So it's just two, three people that I connect with. Everyone else, I feel like I don't want their story to tarnish mine
Hmm.
in any way, just because maybe I'm not strong enough uh, to hear things that may throw me in a spiral.
It's not about not being strong enough. It's about some things might not be applicable to you. So why bother yourself with stuff that
Yeah,
someone else went through at all? Like,
yeah, yeah.
it's where you're apparently strong enough. So stop parroting about that bullshit. But so in the days when you feel slightly low, when you're just out of the chemo cycle, when you say read one of these accounts of survivors which do send you down a spiral, how important has the family support been? I mean, I know uncle and auntie have shifted their base to Bangalore. Arush, your brother, has also been with you throughout the last month and a half, and this is during a pretty important stage in his life as well. So how important has that support been?
It's everything.
Hmm.
I My go-to person whenever I'm feeling any kind of fear is my mom.
Hmm.
I have discussed things with her which I may never have, in any normal circumstances, but I just tell her exactly what I'm afraid of, what is bothering me, and she soothes me down very quickly. She, as soon as I was diagnosed, within 2 3 days of that, she started getting me into the practice of meditation.
Hmm.
She sits with me every night and we meditate together. And that has been, without mom and her meditation, I don't think I would have survived. Cancer would have eaten my mind. So she's my go-to for every small fear. And she's been a pillar of strength. Like, from day one, I did not see any fear on her face. She
Hmm.
was just like, "Ho jayega." We will do what the doctors tell us to do. We will get through the treatment. And that's it. Calm down. Like, why are you guys so anxious, right? So that's been very helpful. My dad has, he initially started with fear and anxiety, uh, which is a very expected emotion, right?
Of
But
course.
very quickly he morphed into, becoming a very positive and pleasant presence in the house. And so he will start his day with like yoga and breathing. Mind you, these are things he would not have done in life before. But he just wants to like now he wants to present like kitna calm or peaceful ghar hai hamara, guys. Like, and I'm like, excuse me, when did you start going on walks? So he just maintains this, and my dad, between the two of my parents, my dad is very good at reading my face. So he will know कि क्या चल रहा है, right? So he will like look at my face, he'll ask me one or two questions, then he'll go to mom and say, वो ना bore हो रही है. तो उसको ना बाहर लेके चलते हैं. So in a way, it feels like my parents are like giving me a second life right now. And without them, I there is no way. I can't imagine. I know I don't have a partner, but I can't imagine anyone else in my life, no matter how much they love me or hypothetically could have loved me if, let's say, I assume an ideal partner. I don't think anyone could have done this for me the way my parents are. So, yeah. My brother is, as you know, he's getting married next
Hmm.
month. Yeah, next month. And he the early thing was that, oh, should we postpone or cancel the wedding because it'll be difficult. But then both him and I decided that kar lete hain, let's do a small wedding. And, it might sound like a big sacrifice that, oh, you're not having like a big fat wedding where you're able to call all your friends and, do it like in a really, really grand way. And as you know, we've discussed this on a podcast before. I'm
Hmm.
useless when it comes to getting married. So at least ek bacche ki to shaadi ho rahi thi, which my parents could have enjoyed in a grand scale. But um, so in that sense, we decided not to postpone it and we decided to keep it small. But I don't think that's the big sacrifice. I think the big sacrifice that he's silently making is his family not being part of it. The uh, the preparation bit, right? So the last whole month, he's been alone in Delhi figuring everything out. Of course, he's taken help from, but it's not the same as your sister or your parents sitting with you and bickering over ये खरीदना है वो नहीं खरीदना है ये venue, like you
ये
just
कलर
miss
अच्छा नहीं
out.
है, ये डिजाइन सही नहीं लग रहा है. हाँ.
Yeah, you just miss out on all those things which
Yeah.
make for really good memories. And that's the big sacrifice he's making, and so are the rest of us. And just somehow making do. But we still wanted to do the wedding, and I'm glad that we chose not to postpone it, because then in the middle of cycles, I have a little bit of a celebration to look forward to, and
Hmm.
meet a lot of people and have some fun. So that'll be nice.
You're one of the mentally toughest and more sorted people I know. And this is not just blowing smoke up your ass, but I legit believe that you know what you want from life and you chase it to the world's end to achieve that. Over the last 2 months or so, since you've grappled with this roller coaster of emotions, uh, has life simplified itself a lot? Have you let go of a lot of paraphernalia that used to be important, say 2.5 months back, and uh, have the priorities of life realigned themselves in the last 2 months or so?
Um, Not in a very profound way, and I'll tell you why. I think one
Hmm.
big reason for that is that, like I said, I was on a break last year.
Hmm.
Before my career break, I was in a job that took like 16, 17 hours a day, Monday to Sunday, right? So in that sense, I had a lot of these, a lot of time to myself to think about what's really important to me
Hmm.
and live my life a little bit more authentically, do things that I enjoy. And, so all of that was always there. And I think that's true for a lot of people in their mid 30s,
Hmm.
where you have a general sense by now कि क्या
Hmm.
बकवास है, or what is it that actually gives you joy and is meaningful to you. It's another thing that you may or may not be able to pursue it because
Hmm.
either you're just so
Responsibilities. Life comes in the way. Yeah.
life comes in the way, right? So you may not be able to pursue it. So all of that was always there. I think
Hmm.
what changed significantly was my approach to going after the things that I want in life.
Hmm.
And for me, they were always like because of my experiences last year, they were fairly simple. I want to dive more. I want to surf more. I want a job that has an empathetic work culture, and
Hmm.
I want to work with nice people. I want to learn a lot of new things, and I want to find love and stuff like that. So all of that remains pretty much the same. What changed was that I had an Excel sheet for all of this. And I had broken down every single thing. इतने dive trips करने हैं, this quarter में इतनी investment करनी है, gym इतनी बारी जाना है, इतना inch lose करना है. So, all of that control over every single goal that is important to me. कितने number of books पढ़ने हैं, ये वो, all of that probably went away.
Hmm.
And I realized that, look, I have a fair idea of what's important to me. I know I'm smart enough, or I am now old enough to know how to go about it. I don't necessarily have to get frustrated when things are not falling into place by the date that I expect them to. Like if I've not lost 2 kilos and gone to the gym 5 times in this next 1 month, it's all right. 2-3 महीने बाद हो जाएगा यार. So that slowness has
Hmm.
sort of become a little important. But yeah, maybe in my case, there was no profound discovery or change of what I still want from life.
Hmm. So you've you've been single for a while now, and you were just mentioning that uh, no partner could probably provide the care and the affection that parents have been able to provide. That being said, do you still feel a little apprehensive now about uh, there should have been someone who probably would have been of a little bit of help or a little more support during this time, or are you even more determined कि हाँ अब इतना सब भी अगर मैंने अकेले हैंडल कर लिया तो क्या क्या ही हो जाएगा, और इसके बाद तो फिर तो क्यों ही जरूरत है किसी और की.
There are so many little things around this topic. And I remember thinking before I got my results,
Hmm.
biopsy ho gaya tha, and I was in that little twilight zone, where it could have gone either way.
Hmm.
And of course, I was sitting and packing for my Maldives trip thinking, मैं मैनिफेस्ट करती हूँ कि एकदम क्लीन रिपोर्ट बढ़िया एकदम विजुलाइज करती हूँ कुछ नहीं आएगा. I remember in that moment thinking very, very strongly that, you know what, if the report is negative and I don't have cancer, I'm gonna just double down on finding someone to do life with. Like
Hmm.
I'm gonna really, really sort this for myself now. And I was just like, please, Bhagwan ji, I promise, if you just, give me a cancer-free card tomorrow, I'm gonna go and find myself.
मॉलडीव्स में ही मैं ढूंढ लूंगी किसी को.
Maldives से ही ढूंढ लूंगी मैं डाइविंग साथ में करेंगे. I'm just going to fix this shit, right?
Hmm.
So I remember thinking that, and then immediately after the diagnosis, your first thought before you understand what treatment options are available to you कि तुम मर रहे हो.
Hmm.
And so my thought was, I'm going to die without having experienced love,
Hmm.
without having shared my life with someone, bickered with someone over small things, and just had someone to come home to. And I'll not have that now again, because even if I somehow get out of cancer survivor se kaun shaadi karta hai? It's like you just
Hmm.
carry that, like the stigma continues and everything. I don't think if I
Hmm.
put on my dating profile today that, oh, cancer survivor or cancer fighter, all the right swipes will very nicely become left. So I had that in my mind, and I remember feeling very disappointed about it. Cut to now, and I also then met survivors who had terrible partners in their lives who immediately left them after the diagnosis or could not deal with the treatment and the shit that it brings up, right? So I guess I'm back to what I used to think about this, which is it's better to have a good partner than it's better to have no partner than have a bad
Hmm.
partner to do
Hmm.
life with. And if you have someone good to do life with, just don't let them go. Don't wait around for the next better thing, because life is short.
Hmm. So, you're a reasonably well-to-do person financially. I won't say कि अंबानी की बेटी एकदम, but you're a reasonably well-to-do person. But cancer treatment is expensive. Cancer treatment takes a toll on your your savings as well. How
Yeah.
have you been coping up with this unexpected amount of splurging that you've been having to do just to stay alive. साल के शुरुआत में जब एक्सेल शीट बनाई होगी तो उसमें कैंसर ट्रीटमेंट करके कोई कॉलम नहीं होगा. एंड
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure quite a significant chunk of your savings, quite a significant chunk of your medical insurance तो कब का exhaust हो चुका होगा. But has this uh, forced you to think differently of the next few years to come as well, as far as your personal goals are concerned?
This is a tricky one. Like, number one thing that I tell people now is like, guys, get health insurance and get like a significant cover, and don't shy away from reading the policy document and get everything checked.
Hmm.
I've been lucky to have some decent health cover, but yes, it takes a hit on your savings that you would not want.
Hmm.
आप चाहोगे कि वो पैसा आप अपने घर खरीदने में लगाओ, और वेकेशन wherever else, या बच्चों
Hmm.
की पढ़ाई में लगाओ. Depending upon how well you take care of yourself going forward, and like, I'll have to really rebuild my body.
Hmm.
And if I do that well enough, I can keep my health costs down.
Hmm.
I have not yet come around to deciding how differently I'll want to live my life with respect to money, because there's this one school of thought in my head which says that now that I'm going through this, and whatever shape or form I come out in, I want to take it easy. I don't want to do stressful jobs that put me right back in the high risk cancer category. But I will need the money, you know. So I've not quite figured out how I want to deal with
Hmm.
this. But yeah, I guess probably not have kids and use that education fund for like, गलती से हॉस्पिटल जाना पड़ गया फिर से.
Easiest thing to discard.
Yeah, बच्चे रहने दो. That's so expensive, man.
Yeah.
So no, save cost over there.
ROI कुछ नहीं है मतलब.
What ROI am I giving to my parents now? Still a drain.
Exactly अभी भी लीच ऑफ ही कर रहे हैं यार.
So yeah.
What are the randomest or weirdest suggestions that you've come across in the hundreds of thousands of messages that would have filtered through? गौमूत्र का आया होगा, I'm pretty sure कि
Yes.
हाँ इससे सब ठीक हो जाएगा, मोदी जी ने
Yeah.
बोले.
Yeah. Yeah, I did get the cow urine. It's
You
like,
did really?
I did. And it was delivered very. Okay, so before I answer this question, I have to explain a little bit about, alternative treatment therapies that are available for cancer now, because cancer is so, we don't know what cures it.
Hmm.
Right. And so
Hmm.
there is enough people that, especially if someone who's diagnosed with a stage 4 and oncologists have said कि हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते, they do go for alternative therapies, Ayurveda or homeopathy, and just changing your diet to Mediterranean, doing yoga, meditation, and there are enough people out there who have seen success. Like, there is a story of this man who was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and given 3 months to live, and he started just doing yoga, and he was not an Indian, so he started following an Indian/Mediterranean diet, and he's now
Hmm.
alive. Like, it's been 30 years, he's still living.
Hmm.
So, it's when someone comes to you with an alternative therapy suggestion, they come in good faith. They
Hmm.
come with having heard some experience. दूर का चाची के मामी के भाई ने काउ यूरिन पिया था, उनका बिल्कुल तो कभी ट्यूमर फिर वापस आया ही नहीं. So it's hard to be unkind when someone, shares
Despite
that.
every core of every fiber of your body wanting to be unkind to it. पर मारूंगी.
But yeah, so and I also don't dismiss it. But then when you take it, and I did take one suggestion to an oncologist, because when they took out the tumor from the surgery, we were just like, cancer तो है नहीं ना, तो कीमो क्यों करानी है, हम हर महीने स्कैन कराते रहेंगे, जैसे ही वापस आएगा, as soon as it's there in the scan, we'll start doing chemotherapy. Otherwise, let me live my
Hmm.
life, right?
Hmm.
Because what if you're wrong and it just doesn't come back, and I have to kill myself for no reason? That's when someone suggested homeopathy. And I took, I was trying to grasp at anything that will like
Help you
prevent
lead a
me.
slightly normal life.
Yeah, and I took that to the oncologist, and he looked at me like, he was like, ये लड़की ने पढ़ाई की है, ये educated है, ये सवाल लेके आई है मेरे पास. And I was like, I had literally tears in my eyes with, ki I hope, he gives me something that just do homeopathy and Ayurveda and you'll be fine. But he was like, do you want to die? I was like, no. So, yeah, you take it to the big daddies of cancer world, the oncologists, and no oncologist will tell you green tea will cure your cancer. So, unfortunately, all the sasta therapies have to be, yeah, the dumb suggestions.
Green tea with 2 drops of cow urine will also not help.
नहीं यार, काश गाय रख लेती मैं घर में. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, 2 cycles done, 6 to go. Slightly more painful ones to come. Uh, as far as impact on the body is concerned. Next month, there's a wedding to look forward to. Beyond the wedding, what are you looking forward to? I mean, with respect to work, with respect to getting life slightly back on track.
It's hard to look forward to much during chemo, but I'm really, really, really hoping that I can go diving this year, this
Hmm.
calendar year. And
Hmm.
for me, being able to go diving would mean that I'm done. I'm done with cancer. That's the only thing I'm looking forward to. And I just hope everything else in terms of work and what is expected from chemo cycles, all of that just थोड़ा normal रहना भाई सब लोग कुछ ऐसा don't do anything that'll give me pain or set me back. That's my only hope.
I have been looking forward to speaking to you over phone for the longest time, but again, I haven't really had the words of what to say, what not to. So this has been a long time coming for sure, and thank you for choosing me to speak to the world via me. So I was speaking to Shikha last night as well that it's a little daunting for me as well that she's she's chosen me to come out to the public and just chosen me to help you navigate through thoughts and all. You you've got this. If I could pick one person in the world to fight for my life, I'll pick you. So you beyond any shades of doubt, you've got this, and we'll meet in person as soon as we can. And I love the fact that you still have this wonderful smile. Gives us a lot of strength, to be honest. Uh, just you being positive gives everyone who knows you, who cares about you, a lot of strength. So just keep the strength in yourself, no matter how difficult it might seem. And
Yeah, guys, I'm fighting cancer for you all. Otherwise, मैं अपने लिए क्या? It's not for me. I'm selflessly fighting so that I can keep entertaining people and listening to their breakup stories and other work drama, and just keep this up for many years.
yeah, yeah. So thanks for the time, Zoya.
I just want to say one last thing. There's no right words. There's there's never any right words that make a difference or mean more. It's just the fact that you show up. So I'm glad you're one of those people who always shows up for me, and you're a true friend's friend. And I could not have thought of, like, there was no alternate in my mind who I would have done this with. So I'm grateful for you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, before I get to emo, band kar.